Hey guys, how's it going? This is Social Media Hangout, and this week we have a special guest with us. She somehow snuck into the Hangout, but we're going to let her hang out with us for a little while. Hi Pam, how's it going?
Good, thank you. Glad to be here.
And if you could introduce yourself to our audience.
Sure. My name is Pam Moore. I go by Pam Marketing Nut out on Twitter. Some of you may know me. And who am I? What am I? It's a Sunday. I have two boys that I've been hanging out with all day, and I have proof. I have my Marvels t-shirt on. They make fun of me. It's the superpower shirt. But I am a founder of a marketing agency. We do everything from social business, social media, to websites, all kinds of geeky stuff, and really just like helping our customers meet their goals and make sense of all of the nonsense that's out there about social and social business. And then, go ahead.
No, I was going to ask, is that the owl from the lollipop commercials behind you?
I don't know. He's my hoot hoot friend. So
nice.
Yeah, he has one of his T's fell off, so he's really the who guy.
Nice. But yeah, so I actually got to know you through a Twitter chat that I started participating in from time to time. It's been a while since I've been there, but I'll try to come back. Google Plus does take a lot of my day.
We like when you come in because you're a good balance.
I like to represent Google Plus over there. Everyone likes talking about everything else, but I make sure you mention it from time to time.
I like it.
And I've been pestering you about using it more and getting you in here. Because I love your insights, and you seem to have a good head on your shoulders. So, but today, I guess what to talk about. I was dealing with technical issues all day, and we could talk about anything we want. We had a Twitter study that just came out from Eric and Mark, who are actually not here today. They're flying to Moz Con, which should be a lot of fun. So good luck to the guys out there.
Yeah.
And I guess Eric or Mark is speaking, right? Or are they both speaking?
I think, but they're both speaking actually.
Ah, nice.
Yeah.
Okay, but yeah, so it should be a very good talk with them over there, and we look forward to having them back over to talk to us.
Cool.
But as far as Twitter, Pam, how did you get started in social media? How have you amassed your following on Twitter? And
so it really started, I worked 15 years plus in corporate. I know I'm dating myself, but I worked in tech. I've always been a geek, started in the big data center, and we were truly doing social before there was anything called social media. And I don't know if you guys are as big a geeks as me, but I remember working on the Blackboard systems when I was at GE, and I mean, helping support customers and literally going out and when the internet was truly launching and helping in the financial and insurance and banking industry, teaching them how to use a mouse and how to, get away from DOS and scroll on the web. And so it kind of dates back that far. And then I worked 15 years in corporate and just knew it was time to get out and do something on my own. And when I got out, one of the first things I did was jump on a teleseminar, and it was actually with Mari Smith, and she had a community at the time. And I think I only had about 300-400 followers on Twitter. And I got on the phone, okay, and I do have a traditional phone that I never use. Don't ever leave me a voicemail because I likely won't get it on that phone. And I was on a teleseminar, and I was just talking about branding and just talking about the things I'd talked about for 15 years, in corporate. And I was blown away there were about 20 pages of tweets of people talking about what I was saying. And that's the day that it hit me. And I remember sitting there after just being, beat up coming out of corporate, right? And here I am sitting in an afternoon, 3 o'clock call, and everybody's going crazy. And I went from like 300 to about 3,000 followers, what seemed like almost overnight. And that's when I realized the power of it. I'm like, we're on to something here. There's got to be something going on. And so then I kind of just dug in, and the first 6 months that we launched our company, I really didn't focus on getting clients. We were really focusing on just learning the technology and learning the power of what we had at our fingertips. And that's kind of how we have always been. And then just focus on content and building community and just relationships and people.
Nice, and you know, I'd say I'm coming out of a similar stage as I was doing the same thing, not really focusing on picking up new clients, but you know, I had a few pro bono, but it was mostly about experience, getting the practice in. You have to do it first, and then try to market yourself doing it. It's you need that experience.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Well, yeah, it's definitely all about experience, and you know, Pam, I can definitely I can relate to you. I was back there about 15 years ago teaching people how to use computers and also learn about the internet. And I remember I even had this one customer. Gosh, I was teaching him how to use a computer, and he was like, I can't turn my computer on. Can you please come help me out? Went over there and I looked at it, and everything's all plugged in and everything. And he was like, yeah, just keep on stepping on the mouse and it won't turn on. You know.
We used to, there was a girl that worked for me when I was at GE. I mean, I remember, and that's kind of what I did. I was always in corporate, but in a startup, and that was back during the Jack Welch days when literally when you would turn in your expenses, you would put it in an envelope and just stick the receipts in there. And those were the glory days, okay? And we'd go out on the road, and we built our customer support database out of Microsoft Access, all right, if anyone remembers that. And I remember a girl that, I remember a girl that worked for me. We used to call her and play jokes and tell her that we had the mouse on our foot. And she would fall for it every time. So those were the good old days.
Yeah, but you know, you brought up a really great point there, and one great point is that you know you started into Twitter, and all of a sudden you started to see the success, but then you started to play with it and experience it before even trying to sell it to anybody.
Absolutely.
So you, like a lot of us internet pioneers, you know, basically we have to learn on the job, and we have to figure it out.
Absolutely.
And once we get that magic and that mojo, things start to happen. So can you share any like early successes?
Yeah, and so once we did that, and then, you know, and that's what we have helped ourselves and our clients do a lot, because if you think about how I learned Twitter, I didn't learn Twitter by being a superstar on Twitter. I learned Twitter by being invited onto the medium in a way that I felt comfortable at the time, which was I could talk. Someone asked at the time, said, hey, can you talk about branding? I felt really comfortable talking about branding. And so that's where I think we've had some really easy wins with some of our clients, is helping them bridge that digital divide. And so, you know, we're all about building an environment where people can feel comfortable. And that's the first thing we do when we start with the client. You know, the only dumb question is the one that you don't ask me. And just building that environment within our company and everybody that we work with, because a lot of times the CEOs and, you know, all the way down will sit in a training and nod their head, you know, yeah, I understand, but really they don't know the first thing about what you're talking about, and they're scared to death to ask, right? Because they've been sitting in classes for 3 days, or, you know, they've had the same conversation 20 times with their marketing director. But back to your question about what were some of the like magic moments, early wins, I think it was just content. You know, our first agency was acquired within less than 2 years of starting, and every time we were going through changes, that's what I always said. And if all else fails, if I don't know what to do today, you know, things are up in the air when you're being sold and bought, and I said just write content. So every time there was a questionable moment or week, we knew we could never go wrong by continuing to invest in our communities and give them the best content that we possibly can.
And it shows that we have a few fans of yours in the audience already, and one of those, Lynn Abate Johnson, shout out to her, and she was kind enough to link your blog as well.
Thank you so much.
But definitely, it's people, they like your blog. I like it. It's good writing. It's not just form-filled just for the sake of blogging, which I really hate to see when it's just a blog for they take a definition and rewrite the definition.
It happens too
often. I have a dictionary.
Exactly.
But so it's nice to see that. Let's see if we have any other questions. Oh, and who was your pick for FIFA World Cup?
Oh, well, Barcelona. I love Barcelona. I was just in Barcelona, but USA, of course, right? But I don't know. Depends on the day.
Ben, do you follow soccer at all? Any predictions?
No, I haven't been following it at all. I haven't. I was in Miami when they kicked it off, and we were kind of laughing at some of the people that were going, yeah!
Like, you don't pay attention to soccer for 4 years, and then all of a sudden, World Cup comes around. Or how many? 4 years? Is it 4 years, right?
Yeah, I think it's every 4 years.
But right. So Pam, other than Twitter, are there any other social networks that you really like to play with?
Yeah, so I love them all. I mean, I'm a new believer in Instagram, so I really love Instagram. And I know everybody uses, every platform different, but I have found a new love for Instagram, and I use it different than what many people will tell you how to use it. And, for me, I think there's only one way to use any social network, and that's the way that works for you and your business. And so I honestly, in everything that I do, I never listen to the people that tell me what to do. I actually go and do the opposite. If somebody says don't tweet something or don't write content on a Saturday, when I first started, that's what I would hear. Some of my best viral content, that has had the most success in business has been published on a Saturday morning at 7 a.m. But Instagram, I love. It's helped me establish relationships with a lot of our target audience, which are executive directors up to C-level executives, for our agency type of services. And a lot of them have said, I've loved being able to just see your life, see what you do and get to know you and your family. So I use it as a relationship nurturing platform where you'll see other folks that are putting all their links and their products. We don't use it that way. Some of our clients do, but I've been able to use it as a relationship platform. And then LinkedIn is another favorite of mine that I've been on since practically they launched, and it's a I think great validation tool for business and kind of who you are. When we get a lead that comes in from LinkedIn, they're practically ready to go to contract. And I'm seeing your head nod. We spend the least time on LinkedIn, but it's a platform that works really well for us. And then of course Facebook. I love it.
The return on engagement that you can get from LinkedIn is so high because everybody is there for one purpose, and that's business networking.
Absolutely.
They're either looking for something or they're there to sell something, and they're looking for the right person. And if you're on there, you're usually looking for that.
Absolutely. And it's the best. Go ahead.
I was going to just mention, because you were talking about Instagram, and IKEA actually, did you see what they came up with on Instagram, their own little website?
Yes,
I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah.
Definitely different. It was an interesting use of the platform, and I'm going to have to take another look at it, because I kept trying to use Instagram. I just couldn't bring myself to bring out my camera every time. I mean, I'd rather do the thing that I'm doing than take the picture of the thing I'm doing.
Yes.
After the fact, I always go, oh, that would have been a great Instagram picture, but that, or there was a study said about how restaurants, how they've served people, and because of things like Instagram, we've added it's like 40 minutes to the average restaurant time sitting at a table because people are pulling out their phones, taking pictures of other people, using the waiters. There was they went hardcore with that study and I'm gonna have to link it later. I'll get
Definitely.
it.
I want to see
about it.
Sounds good.
And even just wasting the actual restaurant's time with waiters taking pictures of groups of people, and it's an interesting look at how we're.
I would like to see that.
It's a loss of productivity, but
to be true.
But if you use it for such effective relationship building and showing people, it can be a good use of time. It's just because some people misuse it doesn't mean we shouldn't try. But it's good.
Yeah, I like it. I'm excited to see where it goes too. I'm really excited to see how Facebook, what they decide to do with it, and I think of course there'll be a lot of waves once they make some changes, but they're coming, right? I mean, obviously I think there's got to be some changes that are coming, and I think it's the glory days right now that we're not seeing the advertisements and all the junk in there. I hope it doesn't change anytime soon.
Well, if that's one constant in social media is you can always expect change.
Exactly.
People love to fix things that are not broken.
Exactly. They should have learned that a long time ago. We don't need that, do we?
I don't know what I was doing. I think it was either reading or watching something. Too much content. But it was basically about how Facebook had put out a couple years back. They put out their Insights program, or what was it called? It was basically for businesses to see the activity of users online. But it's interesting how that's become so accepted now. There's still some pushback, but for the most part, people don't care anymore that Facebook is using their data. They know. I mean, they're like, whatever. It's an interesting trade-off we make. It's data as a currency, kind of. But anyway, side note.
Now that could get into a whole philosophical discussion about how the generation that's growing up now is not going to care about their privacy and the fact that there is no privacy whatsoever.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I have a 10 and a 14-year-old, and my 14-year-old, we just recently let him onto Facebook, and I love the fact that he doesn't care about his Facebook algorithm, right? And he knows all about it, he's educated on it, and he doesn't care. He is who he is, and he puts his content out there, and if people like it, they like it. And I think he's been around us for so long and seen people that have just been so addicted to it, and the whole algorithm thing defining them, and I love the fact that he doesn't care, and he's out there on it. He thinks I am who I am. If you like me, you like me. If not, go jump in a lake and I'll go fishing.
Nice.
Well, and you gotta love that when the technology in a sense does become a little bit transparent.
Because they're just so used to it, right? It's something that they're growing up with. It's not as big a deal to them.
So Pam, so I know Twitter. Back to Twitter because it seems to be your favorite or at least preferred platform. But if you were in charge of Twitter, what's your next step? What would you want to introduce? What would help grow Twitter? What do you think? I want from what from your experience, from what you've seen, be interesting.
Well, I don't know if I want to say it because some of the things we're building, but no, there's some things we're building that are going to be really cool. We'll be launching in the next year. But if I was Twitter, I would make sure that I don't break what is working, right? And that's, I think, the thing that worries me the most is please don't take away the fact that we can have real-time conversations. Twitter, are you listening? We need to have, I don't want Twitter to turn into Facebook, right? And if there's a version of it that starts to look more like Facebook, fine. But let me please keep that same version. And then I think I would love to be able to see better streaming of conversations, and the things that we have to do for a tweet chat nowadays. It's just insane, And I've been saying since I hopped on Twitter several years ago, back in 2009. I hope that in 2 years we're laughing at the tools we're using today. Okay, we're still using the same tools, and a few years ago I used to say it's got to get better. It's going to be like the big mobile phones we used to have. Where they got, now they're tiny. I'm hoping that someday some of those tools are going to be improved. We can have more metrics, and that they can care about how businesses want to use the platform, other than if we're just spending a bunch of money with them, right? Because there's such a market, I think, for such an opportunity for small business to be able to use it, that they don't have access to the tools, the measurement, tools that they need to really make it do something.
The problem is, though, sometimes I think that these networks, they're afraid of giving us all these metrics, and they're afraid of too many people realizing that they're throwing stuff at a wall. That's it. It's not going anywhere for them, and it's a shame. It doesn't mean that social media doesn't work. It's just it doesn't work for a lot of people, and they need to adjust accordingly.
That's
right.
Good point.
But it's good for advertisers to keep the people on there as much as possible. Even if
they don't want to
overcomplicate
it. They don't want to say you need a whole plan and you need to, do all these things to see result. They don't want to say the same things we're saying. They just want to say get on there and get the impressions for us.
And now Facebook's dealing with they've sowed their own seeds, because now they're saying like, oh well, you guys post too much content, so we can't show all of your content to everybody.
Right.
Well, so tell people that they need to have even a more targeted campaign to say, hey, stop sharing so much. Share what's important, not every little mundane detail. But yeah,
that's what you're thinking every moment of the day.
Or Facebook could just open it all up and let it be like Twitter.
We do have a few questions from Lynn, actually. She was saying that she loves what you say about the algorithm obsession. Could you speak a bit more about owned versus unowned properties, or non-owned?
Yeah. So the algorithmic obsession and then owned versus unowned properties. So both two different questions. Is that what I'm hearing?
It seems to be a comment and then a question.
Okay. So and I actually have a blog post or a podcast that I put out today about that addiction. and it's only 7 minutes. We just launched the Social Zoom Factor podcast platform, and I talk about that. And anyone, I just have to do a plug for my friend. I get nothing from this, okay? It is just a woman that I met online, and truly she's helped change our lives, our family. But it's handsfreemama.com. And so for any family, I think even if you don't have kids, it's good to go take a look at this site. And it basically, I guarantee it will inspire you to put this down, right? And to be able to turn off that addiction. And I think that's a huge part of why my kids are not addicted to it, because we have focused the best we can. I'm not saying I'm perfect by any means, but we have really tried to put it down. When we have family time, it's family time. When we go out to dinner, it goes down. We don't want to be the parents that are sitting there with our faces in our phones. And so I just go check out that site. It's handsfreemama.com, and she has some great stories and articles that'll just remind you of what really matters in life.
See, that leads me right back to what we were talking about just now. You know, it's a group of girls out on the town. You know, it seems that it's more important to post their pictures to their Instagram followers than it is to actually be there with other people. And it's not good for a society. But right, so that's awesome. I'll have to check that out.
To live the moment, to live your life, not just capture the life for the social networks. We have to, I think, and as leaders in this industry, whatever we call it, we need to lead, and we need to lead and even teach the people within the brands that they have to be empowered to shut off, right? We at some point, we have to be able to live our life. Why are we doing all of this?
You know, we're ethical marketers when we ask people to not give us as much data. Like, that's really, everyone else would say, oh, yeah, keep pumping your data into the system. We know more about you. We can target you more effectively. Yeah. But I've never, and that's why people are like, why don't you like Facebook more? It's great for marketers. I'm like, yeah, but your data is just the commodity, and that's it. It's not about real connect. I mean, there are people that really connect on Facebook. I'm not saying it's completely useless. It's just my personal experience. But yeah, it's difficult. But right. To the second part, I guess, about owned and unowned properties, just to get back to the question.
Oh, yeah, I could talk forever about that. So all I can say is, I think you hit on it earlier, Ben, the only guarantee is change, right? And just as you get used to something, anything in life or business, social media, the only guarantee we have is that it's going to change. And I think that's something that we're seeing. And we're seeing because I know the economy has been bad for a while globally. And so there's this gap of years from when the .com era, and I worked at Sun Microsystems, who put the dot in .com at the time and saw it crash. And so there was this middle area from when everything was booming, and everybody built their websites back then, built their 100, microsites, and agencies were making loads of money. I was on the corporate side then paying millions of dollars. I wish I was where I was now. And then I think with the economy just crashing, people almost forgot about marketing 101 and branding 101. And we see a lot of our clients, from startups to enterprise companies, those middle years, it's like, what happened? Like, I know you have a college degree in marketing. I know you've worked 10, 20, 30 years in business, but when I ask you who your customer is, you don't know. And when I ask you, you say, anybody can buy my products in this demographic, or, when I ask you, where's your customer hanging out online? Well, I don't know, but yet I've just spent $100,000 on ads for Facebook the past 6 months. And so, and it happens all the time. And so, they put all their eggs truly in this basket because of, I believe, those middle years, right? It's that segment of where everything has just blown up. And so now they know my platforms are bad, so I'm just going to go put everything in Facebook or wherever they're investing. And they need to roll it back and say, no, I need to build that home base. Like, you have got to have your own home base to bring people back to. And if, when people always ask us, what are the main factors that have enabled you to grow your business, number one is our platform. It's not just Twitter. It's, my 30,000 people that are on my email list after we sold our first agency. And so it's email marketing, and I'm writing a blog post tomorrow. Email is not dead yet. It's that Monty Python. Are you guys Monty Python lovers? Okay. You remember that movie and it's I'm not dead yet. Oh, and she will be by morning. Okay, that's what email marketing is, and everybody thinks it's dead. If you're not building a blog and building an email list, but you're investing $1,000, even $1,000 on social media, we need to talk. Like you need to go turn off Facebook for a month and go build yourself a homegrown WordPress website if you have to.
People don't like changing their emails if they don't have to. That's the thing. Like your email list from 10 years ago still might be 50, 60, 70% viable, if not more.
Absolutely.
I still see a lot of hot AOLs and AOL.com email addresses. That's from 10 years ago.
Yeah. I still have Yahoo. I still have the same Yahoo address that I signed up with on LinkedIn whenever it launched.
I have it forwarding to my Gmail now. Yeah. Granted, it goes to a separate folder that stays on the side because it's usually spam, but I still keep it there just in case. I like to have it.
Yeah. I will say this, Pam. I mean, you brought up a great point there, and I think we talked about this on a social media hangout show early on. That was other people's platforms.
Yeah.
And now, so other people's platforms, of course, can be defined as Google+, Twitter, Facebook, but it can also be considered your platform as well. So you are a platform in a sense.
Right.
So I think there's still a lot of validity in investing in those platforms, but I think the point that you're making, which is really the great takeaway, is that you need to focus on yourself as a platform.
Absolutely.
And it's still very valuable to be involved in the other platforms, but always try and bring it back to you.
Absolutely.
Because if you can get those emails, you now have a gold mine to market to. If you've got a blog, you can build a community, a following, a tribe. I mean, all of those, I think, are just wonderful points.
And absolutely.
I get almost upset, physically upset, when I drive down the highway and I see billboards that say, visit us on Facebook. And I go, who are you advertising, yourself or Facebook? That's all you've done is build them an empire, and you've done nothing for yourself when no one sees your post. I mean,
exactly. And then the QR code is next to it as it's driving by on the truck next to you.
I've seen that.
I was going to say, how violent would you get, Andrew, if they didn't even include their website address?
Or they go HTTP on. But no, it's right. You need to invest in yourself, and it's so much easier. Instead of putting like us on Facebook, just put your URL. That's it.
Absolutely.
The business.com.
Become the media.
Well,
go ahead.
I was just going to say that there's one thing that I've always recommended to my clients, and I do this for myself, and that is that don't say visit us on Facebook or visit us on Twitter. Make a freaking subdomain. Facebook.xyz.com.
Right.
That way you still own it, and you know what? If it tanks, redirect it.
Yep.
Exactly.
And all of your past links are still good. That's beauty of it. Same with even just using your own shortener. You can then go through and set up, so if something horribly fails on one end, you have that database of all your links, of all your data, that you can then go, all right, let's redirect all these to our new landing page here.
That's going to be a fun day, but yes, we can do it.
Right, it's terrible, but it's better than having nothing you can do. I mean, even focusing on using Bitly as a platform, Bitly could disappear. Bitly could be bought and shuttered, and you're done. I mean, all of your links would be dead, every single one, and that's trouble.
Well, like Argyle Software, I don't know if you're familiar with Argyle, and they were a platform, kind of one of our best kept secrets, and I think they were a lot of agencies' secrets, which is why they went out of business, all right? But they are the same type of thing, and that, it was a social media management platform that really enabled us to measure all the way from a tweet to a conversion very easily. And we got about a 45-day notice that they were shutting down. Okay, that was not a good day. And we're getting ready to bring a very large enterprise account onto the platform within 2 weeks. So we were scrambling a little bit, but it was a really big lesson for us and I think many agencies on the URL shortener piece of that. Right, and we all wound up. They worked with us on some solutions and some replacements, but it's so very important because even some of the platforms that today we think are very successful and it's going to be around for a while, it can come in the night and just be gone like that.
I mean, you can even use Google Plus as an example. You know, there are people who use Google Plus. They've actually, they publicly came out and they're like, I'm going to use this as my blogging platform. But they still have a home base. They still have a website. They still lead people to it. It's simply just it's an avenue to that home base, and it's that foot in the door, social media.
Yes.
But the building is your website. That's where they need to go to.
And you're truly the media.
Or wherever they shop.
And I think it's so important that even small brands understand that you are the media, okay? And I explain this no matter when we do a lot of training, and even, and I'll look a CEO in the eye and I'll say, if I can do this, you can do this, okay? You're sitting at a Fortune 100 organization and telling me that you can't make this happen. If I was able to make this happen for my personal brand and my little agency, and building a platform, and we knew that's part of what we've been doing from day one is a media platform. We have a lot of other things we're building, but that's how we've got our foot in the door to some of these Fortune 50 companies. They come to us and they say, can I get on your platform? That's how we originally monetized our Get Real chat. I didn't go out, which is our Twitter chat. I never put a price tag on it as we started it, because still our objective with it is to provide value to the community. And then when we started to have brands come to us and say, how much does it cost to get on Get Real Chat? We're like, well, here's a price. And they paid our price. And so it's been a highly successful platform that both serves the community but also enabled us to be the media, right? And then the key is being able to measure that media and prove the demographics of who's in that community and be able to track those conversions that are happening. So I think the first step is just acknowledging that you are the media and you're focusing on make sure you focus on the right audience so you can be that platform for a particular segment.
See, I'm hoping that we do something similar here with Social Media Hangout even. I was thinking, I've been, everyone's like, oh, go out, seek sponsors, this and that. Well, I don't want to pit myself out to a bunch of sponsors to try to get someone to pay. Instead, I'd like to continue providing value, and if they notice and they want to come down and be a part of it, they can. But I'm not going to beg them to be. That, and we'd also like this not to be. There's a difference between, you have the corporate sponsorship or you have, the donation route, and I really like the donation route because you can then connect with the audience. So we're trying that right now. We'll see how that works out, though.
Yeah.
But it's.
I have some ideas for you. There's some things we're working on that I think might be able to help you. So we need to talk offline.
Definitely.
Yeah, but I think your heart's in it for the right, reasons. And when we help brands reach out to other influencers and communities, I mean, that's what we really help them look for. We look for some of the communities that haven't monetized yet. Those are some of the best, because those are the people who have their heart in it for the right reason. And they're the ones who have an audience that's hanging on to every word that they say, right? And is going to take action because they've built trust. They haven't just only built a platform that they have the only goal of monetizing. And I think that's so important for the brands too, because a lot of times they get sold by these fake numbers that are out there, and they really need to do the double click and look and see who's in it, how are they responding and engaging with that community.
Click the little likes button on Facebook so you can see the page insights and see where those likes are mostly. If you see that they're 13 to 17-year-olds from Sao Paulo, Brazil, and this is an American company, chances are those are fake followers.
Yeah, exactly.
But right, it's
actually, didn't Google just recently put out a paper about putting out an algorithm to discover all the fake bots and fake companies?
Well, they're trying, not necessarily the bots. They want to get rid of the companies that sell the bots in the first place. So it's instead of dealing with the symptom of, because they're realizing that they can't just keep deleting profiles. It doesn't work. They're going crazy. There's so many fake spam profiles out there, they don't even know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
But if they're able to cut it off that the people selling them can't make money doing it, that's how you stop it. So it's because there's a market in it that they're still doing it. It's the same with walking down Vegas.
Kind of like how they dealt with link spam.
Right. You walk down the Vegas Strip and you still see people, it's sorry to say, but it's very dirty-looking immigrants that are basically paid slave wages to stand there flinging cards in your face for strippers and you know, prostitutes, things like that. And you say like, oh, that's probably just such a waste of money, but someone is paying for it. Someone is going, ooh, like that's nice, like, and it's working. So what they need to do is stop allowing them to do so in the first place. And so where were we going with that? That got me on a whole other side.
That could go, and you know how many tangents that one could go on? I almost said something and I said, no, I'm not even going to go there.
Right.
I think we were talking about companies themselves being a platform.
I was also going to say that
being a publisher.
there's a lot of communities that fail because they try to monetize too quickly. I think Pam was onto a really good point there, and a lot of social firms have started social media communities here on Google Plus even, and you go in there and you take a look, and it's every single post is just a reshare from their page of every single post they've ever made on their page. Well, if you understand anything about communities, you understand you want someone to not only follow you, but join your community. If you're just duplicating posts at them, what's the point?
Right.
You need to look at them as different channels of your audience, and you can't, you know, when you're flipping through the TV, you don't want to flip channel to channel and see the same exact TV show. You'll think you're going crazy and turn off the TV. You know, if it's a really bad show.
That does happen at my house because my husband watches the same shows. So fishing and hunting, and that's about it.
They all do look the same.
Maybe we have a bug in the house somewhere.
It's usually a guy with a beard and he's got a gun or a fishing rod. That's pretty much the show.
The ones that whisper are the ones that drive me nuts. When they they're okay. Did you see that deer?
No, I noticed they're now trying to go for the younger audience. Like there's this girl that was on, I guess, Facebook. She was showing pictures of her killing endangered species for a charity to save endangered species, because that makes sense. But so she was a bit of a internet star for a bad reason. But there was like a big outcry. But now all of a sudden, she's apparently getting her own TV show, a hunting show. Go figure. You know, she's like she looks like a Miss America type contestant. You know, so it's obvious. You know, and trying to get that youth conservative market, I guess. But it's interesting. They're trying everything.
Okay.
Anyway, segue off of the back of the hunting shows.
So we've talked about strippers, hunters. Where should we go now?
See.
Well, I think that was a great point about not trying to not go with the intent of being monetized.
Yep.
Right.
Oh, and I like Barbara Tomlin with a comment in the event. Excellent point. Something to think about. Instead of donations and sponsorships, focus on collaboration. Give for more rewarding results overall.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And an example of that, I think, would be when we do a giveaway of a steady demand tool, membership, or a Friends Plus Me membership, or Circloscope, or any slew of tools or things that our audience can use. Because not only does the audience get something, but the tool gets a new user for a month that is most likely going to buy that tool because the tools that we have on this show are awesome. So
speaking of, everybody in the audience can get 30 days free today. Why not? I'll go ahead and I'll pop in a code at the end of the show.
Woo!
Awesome. Well, and one thing I want to say too, back to the Google Hangout and with any community, is also that it has to come from the top down, right, as anything does. And so if the leader is only, or the leaders in the community are only spamming links, and then they're only then everybody else is spamming links. And that's what I've seen, and that's why I'm glad you invited me to this. And I promise that I will spend more time on Google Plus with you both, and maybe you can teach me. Okay, we can teach each other some things, and that's part of what turned me off at first. Is I would go into these communities and the leaders just spamming links, and then everybody else is spamming links, and so it's got 15,000 people in the community, but nobody's talking to each other. Everybody's just spamming, and so that's, I think, so important that it comes from the top, and that everybody. And I guess it goes back to if you have a goal to build community that is of value, right? Or if you're just building an empire. If you're just building an empire, then you don't care that people are talking to each other.
Right. like social media strategy, we don't want all of the posts. That's too many. It's just too much. You can't conceivably run a community that has 100, 200, 300 new posts a day. You're not going to have any kind of discussion, engagement. It can't be a fast-moving stream. We have maybe at most actually 5, 10 posts a day, if that, in social media. And they have to, if there's that many, they have to all be of a rather higher quality. But it's because we want to encourage that discussion. It's you know, and if you're not taking part in other discussions in the community, then we don't think that you deserve to get our audience of 150,000 members, which, you know, obviously maybe half of those are non-users by now of Google+. Right. Yeah, you got to assume. But it's still a very rather large audience, and posts go viral from social media strategy when they do deserve it, which is nice to see.
Well, and that's, you know, a lot of what we did with Get Real Chat, because we launched it, it was 3.5 years ago, and it was really the goal when we launched it was there was so much confusion around some of these same topics, and it was a lot about how do I build my brand. You know, really people were struggling with the difference between authenticity and transparency, and so how I need to be authentic, but then there's that whole struggle of, okay, does that mean I have to share everything I ate for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and when I go to the bathroom, and if I take my phone, and all the stuff that we don't need to know? So we really started the conversation to talk about the topics that everybody else was avoiding. And what happened immediately is that there were natural leaders that stepped in. So, you know, people like Steve Cassidy he has done some paid work with us. He actually works on some of our large client accounts now. But when he started, he could barely do a retweet. Okay, and now if you look at Steve, because of all of us investing in him, now who runs my chat when I'm out of town? Steve, and he gets paid to do that. Okay, and so it's investing in building people, and we have seen so many different chats spur off of that now they're all monetizing their chats, or even if they're not monetizing their chats, they're monetizing their business, right? But it's having that framework from the beginning to decide how am I going to run this, and letting people step in, letting them guide it, and kind of I think you were hitting at the point earlier is they kind of earn their keep to share those links. And so recently we've had a very dedicated group that's been tweeting in every Tuesday night, you know, some of them, and they've just come so far. And so now the last few weeks I've started it at the very beginning and said, hey, tell us who you are, share a link to your blog, right, and give people that opportunity. And I don't do that all the time, but I do that when I see that there's a loyal group that's really been investing in each other, because they want to see the links so they can help each other. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, it's really cool actually, now that I'm sitting and talking to you, how many parallels I think I see in at least how we came through to do what we're doing now. You seem to be awesome. A little bit like a step further than me, but no, it's great to see. You know, I started on Google Plus just as a fluke. I was unemployed and I was just out of my engineering job. I wasn't a marketer. And I was just playing. I was having fun with it, and you know, I started getting a following, and I started realizing, like, this is something. But same with the community. You know, it's how I got involved with my now business partner, Kristoffer. That basically he was in the community, he was posting frequently, he was giving amazing insight, and I asked him to be a moderator, right? You know, when we had 1,000 members still. You know, and it was a great decision, you know, now looking back, now that he writes my checks. So that's always nice. But definitely, it's and now we're getting to this point where we're now trying to at least expand. So it would be great, you know, let's keep talking about, you know, and we can learn from Twitter from you, or at least I can, because I am a Twitter noob. I don't know about Ben.
I got started on Twitter when it first started, and I met 1 or 2 people when I was at a conference. Actually, I used it for mainly conferences, and I helped somebody out, Ricky Neer actually, and I gave her a tripod because she had a camera. I didn't have a camera. I had a tripod. She didn't have a tripod. She retweeted out during PubCon, I think it was, and I was like, I got a tripod. I was like, well, I'll meet you in the lobby and give it to you, and it worked out. We ended up becoming great friends. But it's really, you know, we actually have a couple questions, Andrew. But I was going to say, it's really interesting what you were just saying, Pam, and we definitely need to take that conversation and go further with it, because there's so many parallels between what you just said and what the Google Plus ecosystem is when you meet the right group and circle of people and communities.
And what we can do together is just amazing. And that's some of what we're working on. Is I can't say under NDA, I'll share more, but that's part of what we're working on, is how can we bring some of these communities together in a formal way. And
well, it's a shame.
I'm a geek. I get goosebumps
too.
even talking about it.
Because when we don't watch that ourselves, it's we have new users come in and they see oh, there's a circle share and it's about new members and getting new followers. Oh, that's great. And they get involved with the bad side of circle sharing. I don't know if you've ever seen that, Pam.
Yes. Yes.
But it's the we call it circle jerk affectionately.
I've never got into it. Honestly.
But same with it's like Twitter follow back strategy. If you're only using a follow back strategy, you won't have engagement. Even I know that, and I don't use Twitter that much. That's like when you look at a profile and you see 0 engagement, but you see 15,000 followers and they're following 16,000. I mean, that's obvious. But right. So we do have a few questions. I want to get to Lynn's first. Actually, who determines higher quality posts in your G+ groups? A few months ago, I tried sharing something I thought was interesting there, and it didn't make it through. And then it was reposted with a hat tip to me later. And now she's basically saying that she's a bit reticent to post in the community because she's worried about what determines the quality. And so that situation was likely something where we saw the link was great quality. You obviously saw something good, and it was something that was good for our community to see. But what we want in strategy, more so than the other 3 communities, professionals, creative, and discussion, is that the posts themselves are an example of the top types of Google Plus posts. So if you take a look at the Steady Demand tool, for example, you can even grade your posts on what is a good Google Plus post. And you want to include a title, some description, an original description, not just a copy of the meta, or a copy of the first line or first 3 lines of the piece. Basically, try to avoid just quoting and try to throw in some opinion on it. Try to add a spin that leads to a discussion in the community. It doesn't just link out, say, hey, here's something interesting for the community, and a link. Well, all that does is pull people away from the community, and it as a community owner, I mean, it's I guess it's a little selfish, but right, I'd rather people communicate in the community. There are a few blog posts that I do even disable comments myself and say, go over there and talk because it's worth it. But this is our baby. We want to make sure it continues to grow, and if we keep sending people away, it's a tough balance we have to take. But as far as who determines the quality, we leave our moderators. I have a lot of trust in our mods and fellow owners of the community. We kind of all take it upon ourselves to give it the judge, and sometimes it's not bad. It's just focused at a different audience. It's focused at beginners or focused on just marketers. Focusing on just marketers, you could go over to social media professionals. Social media strategy is more for the overall businesses, agencies, and pros, but professionals is for the actual guys like us lost the word that I want to use, in the trenches. That's the one. All of us in the trenches. So if it's a cool tool or something neat you can do, it might be neat. It might be good for that community instead. But I don't know if I even answered the question. I kind of went off there, but hopefully that does slightly better. Lynn, we would love to see you post again. Just take, like I said, take a look at the other posts in the community. Use formatting. Formatting doubles engagement, even more so than that. It exponentially increases your engagement. I've seen that.
All of that being said, Lynn, I'll just say this very specifically. Lynn, if you have a problem and somebody does strike down one of your posts, feel free to reach out to any one of the community moderators, and they will tell you why it was struck down in the first place.
And if we don't know, we'll figure out who did.
Exactly, because it could have been an honest human mistake.
Sometimes a post gets caught up in the spam filter, and we just assume, like, oh, someone doesn't recognize your name, or like I said, we have one rule in our community where we require interaction on posts, but the problem is Google search is a little wonky in communities. It used to show us all +1s, comments, reshares. Now it seems to only pick and choose a few of them to show us at times. I've found some troubles with it. So it's tough until we get better tools, which it seems we're likely not going to get in communities. We do our best. I'm sorry.
All right, so we have 2 more questions. Actually, these are both for you, Pam.
Okay.
So the first question that we have here is, and this is from Darwin Ruiz, and that is, how do you manage your own Twitter accounts and activity? Do you use lists in place of your actual feed to stay current with your network? Or are there any other ways to?
Okay, so I read all of the people that I follow, 100,000, whatever, I read all their tweets. No, not really. So no, I definitely use lists, and I live in Hootsuite. So I use Hootsuite on my iPhone as well as on the desktop. And so when I am looking for content, and I use Feedly, so there's different curation tools that I use, but I'm addicted to Feedly, and I use that to gather content that I'm like to share, and that's a big goal of mine, is sharing other people's content. And I actually have been so busy lately, I haven't done as good a job as what I like to be able to do. But I'll tell you, that was a really big focus when I was first starting, and I actually a few months ago went back and did an analysis on my own tweets, because I was thinking, what did I used to do when I first started that worked so well, so I can repeat it with our clients. And when I went back and looked, I literally did about 90% plus of other people's content. And I used to be really, really good at like digging for content. And each day I would have, a certain number of posts that were for stats. That would say type of research. Then it would be something about a couple of the social networks. Then it would be something about a brand. So I think getting organized on the content and then following, and that goes to who do you follow, because curation is a really important piece, and you can follow the right folks for a curation goal as well, so that you are consistently providing good information. So I have some top lists that I follow. Some of them I have created. A couple of them are private. Most of them are public. And so one of my favorite lists that I follow is, and I think both of you might be on it by now. If not, I'll make sure you're on there. But is my Tweet Buddies. And so that's basically, once I know you, once we've actually had or I have at least had a conversation with you, I can validate I think you're cool and you're worth talking to, that like I want to follow you. So that's one of the lists of the people. And then the other one is, so there's Tweet Buddies, and then it's fun and interesting people. And so that may be people that I'm interested in. I don't quite know you yet, but you made me laugh probably, right? So you probably made me laugh, or maybe debated me and made me think about something. I love when people, I think that's how we connected, right? And I love when somebody pushes back. If I say, well, I'm not liking Google Plus today, and he's like, hey, why don't you open your mind to a different perspective? And so when people make me think, make me laugh, you're probably going to get added to a list that I'm going to follow you, or if you're providing good information.
That's really interesting, actually, Pam, because that's how people get graduated through circles as well.
Really?
You'll go from the maybe I'll follow to the hung out with to awesome people to notify. I want to see every piece of content from this person.
Mm-hmm. So maybe you guys can help me with that.
Absolutely. I think we could definitely trade some tips.
Absolutely.
Yes. I'll have to send you a few links. There's the one, I guess, from Martin Shervington that seems to be the best one for circle management, but I'll have to dig through for that link and find that. Yeah.
But then to answer the rest of that question too, so I also live a lot in the native Twitter window, and it's honestly, if I'm going to engage, and I set aside time every day and every evening for engagement, okay? And so I recommend that every person that is doing social media, you need to set aside time every day if you can to just engage. Even if that day you only have 10 minutes, set aside 10 minutes that you are doing nothing that talks about yourself. You were setting aside time that you were just there to inspire and to help other people. And I do that every single day. I do that a couple times during the day. And even if I'm slammed with client meetings and who knows what, I will still pop in, right? I'll still pop in for 5 minutes while I'm making lunch, or if I'm standing in line somewhere, wherever I'm at, even if it's on my mobile phone, and just show the love, right? I always just say show the love.
It's just awesome that you say that, because that's exactly what I mean. I try to explain that, you know, we have draconian rules in our community, but I really think that's because so many other communities have no rules at all, that you look at ours and go, oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. But we do them for a reason, and one of them is asking people to engage a bit before sharing their own content is a tenet of relationship building. You have to do that. If you don't, you're missing out. And so by requiring our users of doing it, we're not trying to be mean. We're not trying to make you click on our links. That's not it at all. We just want you to comment on someone's post, not ours, just anyone's.
Exactly. Engage. Another tool is Triber, right? And I also like Triber, and I don't use Triber as an automation tool to just automate everything, but basically what I have are a few very powerful tribes of people that one of my tribes is Social Nuts Tribe, and it's very high content in there, and it's people that we were primarily sharing each other's content before Triber. And if we have time, or we almost have time, I have a really good story about Triber of what Dino Dogan taught me about sharing other people's content, if you have time. If not,
go ahead.
Go for it.
Because I think this is a good lesson. So when I first got on Triber, I got invited by Michael Brenner, who was at SAP at the time, and he said, "Hey Pam, why don't you come into Triber? It was an alpha, I think, at the time." And so I said, okay. I went and joined, and I was stupid, basically. I went in and hooked up my Twitter account, and I did not realize that it was going to automatically tweet out anybody's content that was in my tribe. So I didn't notice that setting. And I think I had, 50, 75,000 people following me at the time, so still a substantial following. Well, a post went out from a guy named Eric Whitlake, who I'm actually good friends with now. And it was something very different than what I believed in. So it was about a topic about traditional marketing, and it was very different than what I had told my audience that I believed in, okay? Just different perspectives. So I went, my following flipped out, and everybody's tweeting back, and it wasn't a crisis, but it took some time that day to manage. I go to the blog on Triber, not looking to start a fight, but I was kind of mad, okay? And I'm like, okay, what is this flippin' Triber thing? And I go there and I find a post that Dino Dogan had wrote, and it said how to pick, there's my dog, how to identify and build your tribe, a good tribe. So how to pick people for your tribe. So I went and put some sarcastic comment on there that said, you need to pick people that are just like you, right, that have the same beliefs that you do. That was my answer. So he wrote me back, and he said, can you hear the dog? I'm so sorry.
That's quite all right.
You would think somebody could go get the dog, since there's like 3 kids standing out there. And so Dino wrote back to me and said, Pam, why don't you open your eyes to other perspectives? Basically, I can't believe you just said that everybody needs to be like you. And so I went away for about a week, and his comment just stuck with me. And I was like, that Dino Dogan, what's he talking about? And so over the next couple weeks, I was like, dang it, he's right. I need to be sharing content that is an alternate perspective than what I think. And so that's really what inspired me and intrigued me about Triber. So then I went back and I started looking at it with a completely different lens. And then I started using it to give. So then I started finding the newest bloggers I could and sharing their content. Somebody that had no followers, but that their content rocked. And a criteria has to be, your content has to be good for me to share it even inside a Triber. But I was seeing people's, they would contact me and say, wow, my blog blew up today. Okay, but it's because people like me were sharing their content and giving them a chance and saying, I like this content. I don't care if you only have 5 followers. I don't care if your blog has no traffic. You have something good to say. Let's help you get that message out there. And so it's a good platform that I encourage people to look at if they're struggling with traffic, but you just have to make sure you have the right mindset going into it.
I keep trying to start using Triber, and I joined a few tribes, I guess, and I think Ben's actually in one of my tribes, but I keep not coming back there. Like, I need to get back in, try to visit it every once in a while, but I find it's kind of at the bottom of my list now, but I should move it up, but because on Google+, I already follow Ben's posts, so I see what he's sharing. So it does seem a bit redundant to me just because of my situation where all of my relationships have come from Google+. So I already see their content. You know, I don't need a new listing. But you know, it's I do see the value of it. It's very powerful. And having a tribe is important. You know.
So maybe we could talk. We could start one together. We could, you know, figure out what the objectives would be for it and bring some people together.
Awesome. No, we love to see you more in the community too. You know, if you like it, if you want to get more active, we'd love to have you as a moderator too. You know, you definitely have a good perspective on things. It's nice to see.
Really quick before we leave, I mean, just because I think they deserve it, is Kristen and Lynn both have a question about bundle posts.
Yes.
So, hey, so we might as well.
Basically, do you use bundle post?
I don't use bundle post, and I haven't used it, so I'm sorry. I can't.
What is it? I don't know what it is. I feel bad now. I can click on that link. But I guess I'll have to go figure out what it is afterwards. A totally new and unique way to curate and manage content better. Well, that sounds like it's necessary, so I will check that out.
Yeah, it's been on my list to look at, but I've just never looked at it, and I'm sorry to the bundle post people. So.
So maybe we can write a bundle post.
All right.
Sometime soon. All right. So I guess now is a good time. We're hitting the hour mark. We could probably talk to Pam for another 6 hours, but I'm sure she has things to do. Go yell at the kids for not letting the dog in. But
sorry about that.
Oh, it's all good.
Oh, it's been an absolute pleasure getting to know you. I'm really glad we got the chance to speak today. 'Cause like I said, we've only really tweeted to each other a few times, so it's nice to have a full chat with more than 140 characters.
I loved it. Thank you for having me.
And thank you for Ben for being here with me today. As everyone else abandoned us today. No, everyone was very busy today. And we miss all the rest of the guys, but I'm sure many of them will be back next week. So. Thank you to all of our viewers who stuck around with us for an hour of chatting.
Oh, and I have one call to action. Everybody send Dustin Stout a Get Better Well card.
Yes. Oh. Yes. And also, you know, smhangout.com/review. If you could review our show, let us know how we did. I'll put the links down in the event page. And thank you again. All right.
Thank you for having me. It was a lot of fun, and we'll have to figure out how we can work together.
Definitely.
Excellent, Pam.
Thank you.
Right, see everyone next week.
Thanks. Bye-bye.